What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops crew, and it's a pretty flat recording that we're going to do today off the back of a really disappointing prelim final loss to the Brisbane Lions. It's hard to kind of find positives in the scenario, despite the fact that there are ultimately many, because we ultimately went down by 10 points. If I bring up the scores here, the Cats went down 12-13, 85 to the Lions, 14-11, 95. Inaccuracy, especially in the first 10 minutes where we really kind of dominated, potentially came back to bite us. We weren't woefully inaccurate, but there were certainly some very gettable opportunities throughout the game that we missed that might have come back to bite us. A team who's been ultra efficient all year in the Cats against a team who's been ultra inefficient over the course of the season, the Lions, and the script was flipped a little bit today. So unfortunate, disappointing, heartbreaking in a lot of ways. We didn't get the points, and so we miss out on a grand final. I think before I really wade into some stats and before I wade into some of the numbers and pull apart some of the data like I'll normally do, I want to take a moment here while I've kind of got everyone to acknowledge the incredible efforts of the Cats this year. A lot of people, as has been the case a lot over the course of the last 10 years, really had written us off. We've lost a lot of experience even throughout this season. Tom Hawkins spent a lot of time on the sidelines and was down in form beforehand. Our aging Warriors are aging further. So now we know that Hawkins is retired. Tui's retired. Mitch Duncan hasn't looked himself for the majority of the season. Cam Guthrie spent the majority of the season injured. Jed Buse was out for the longest time before coming back near the end and doing an admirable job throughout the back end of the season. I was really impressed with what Jed put together. Reece Stanley's another year older. Danger's oldest. Tom Stewart's like those heroes that we've celebrated for years now that have carried us to prelim final after prelim final, to grand final loss against the Tigers, to another grand final and a win in 2022. They're getting closer and closer to the end. And in some cases, the end has arrived. And despite what's been going on with them, a new generation of player has been coming through. And so to see the likes of Ollie Dempsey, Tanner Bruin, Brian Myers, Brad Close, Tyson Stengel, there's a whole generation that is coming up underneath and has done an extraordinary job this season. And it's been such a delight to see over the course of this season the growth of the Ross Lyon said it himself, that he described as green shoots back in the day. Can't even remember whether it was first St Kilda stint, second St Kilda stint, his Freo time. But that was a phrase he used at one point to kind of describe that next generation coming through. And Geelong has managed its list so well over the course of Chris Scott's era that we've never genuinely fallen off. And just when you thought, maybe it's coming, we played in another prelim and we should have won it. And the fact that we didn't hurts, and who knows what might have happened if we got through next week. But as Cats fans, we should all celebrate what has been achieved this season, despite a lot of things not working for us in ways. We weren't plagued by injury in the same way that we were in 2023. But there's a lot of factors there that should say Geelong's not going to be able to compete on the level that it once did. And yet, here we are. We took on last year's grand finalist. We had their measure for the majority of it. We got in front with only 2.5, 3 minutes to go. And yeah, we didn't get the points. But we're going to be a lot better next year for it. Now, before I jump into the analysis, and we'll get back to kind of some of the more hard-hitting and sort of the reasons why people tend to tune in to these reaction videos in the first place, before we get into some of the data and kind of pick through it and discuss the players, discuss the team numbers, I want to make sure, as always, that we take a moment, even in our state of disappointment, to acknowledge our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist, established in Geelong since 1915. Visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That's Cook with an E. Give them a call on 035 222 2244 or mention the Hoops Crew to get yourself 20% off your next in-store purchase when you visit them at Shop 12, 11 Leather Street in Breakwater.
So let's get into some match analysis. We'll bring up the worm to begin with because it highlights what I kind of indicated before, that we control the majority of this game. I would say there's 3/4 of a game of football that we were the team. There was some arm wrestling at different stages. Inaccuracy, as we kind of see at the very beginning here, kind of plagued us. There was opportunities that we could have and should have been a long way in front, but ultimately the Lions skipped away to a little lead in the first quarter, small one, but it skipped away to a lead. We really put the foot down through the second, and had it not been for some of that early inaccuracy, again, we could have been close to 40 points up. And despite the fact then that the Lions kind of got a little mini run on through that third term, well, they kick 5 goals to 2. It may not have mattered. And we fought manfully, and the Lions got a couple of early goals. Like, it was a bit of that arm wrestle in the last term there. There was and massive shout out to Ollie Henry, who was a force for us in that match. Kept us in it, kept us in front, did everything he possibly could, but we just couldn't fight on and couldn't get the job done in the end. So it's a bit of a shame. But the Worm tells a story of a team who really perhaps deserved to be in a grand final. But ultimately, matches like this are won in moments. And the Lions won the moments that mattered. They took some amazing marks. They found space when they needed to, and hit the shot, nailed the shots that they needed to hit. You can't argue with that. And a massive credit to them. Let's move on to some team stats before we jump into some of the individuals, because again, there's a range of measures here that you would say, contrast to what I just described, where the Lions, there's a numerical thing here that shows the Lions dominated, but I think Geelong controlled the game in a lot of ways, despite a lack of relative possession. Lions, you can see, disposal count was higher, kicks, handballs, everything. Inside 50s though, the Cats, we had it where it mattered. Our disposal efficiency was pretty equal for both teams. Nothing really to see there, but our efficiency inside 50. And this is one of the things that I really want to hone in on as one of my main concerns and points for this game. We've seen it a couple of times in the back half of the season when things have been a little bit difficult. We've just gone into a dump it into the 50 sort of mode. A policy, an approach that might have worked with a Tom Hawkins in full flight, but doesn't work when we've got a Jeremy Cameron, Shannon Neal, Ollie Henry sort of pairing, simply because it's not a quality concern. Shannon Neal is not Tom Hawkins in terms of physical strength. He's got reach, which certainly helps, but he doesn't have that strength. And so a Harris Andrews, a Payne, they can knock him off his line a bit. Jeremy Cameron, not known for being an amazing overhead mark. Ollie Henry is an aerialist, but not necessarily a stand and wrestler mark. And so you saw, especially through that third term, there were lots of thrusts into the forward 50, and I would say, despite his heroics, Ollie Henry kind of fell victim to this on a couple of occasions. He was looking for the ball to come, sailing over the back, and it didn't. It would get intercepted. And so he'd kind of look like a fool in some instances. Not necessarily always his fault, but sometimes look like a fool because he was expecting the ball over the top, but it's been kind of laced out, and the Brisbane defenders intercepted it. We didn't necessarily deliver the ball inside 50 with a great level of intelligence, especially in that second half. I think we rushed, we panicked, and we didn't necessarily play the game the way we did in the first half, or the way we had through the back end of the season. We lost a bit of that composure, which is a natural thing to a degree in a prelim final. The stakes are as high as can be. It's something to learn from. I'm not going to go for broke here. It's something to learn from, and they will learn from it. We do have a young core that was delivering that ball inside 50. Stoppages, Reece Stanley dominated the hitouts. Of course, McInerney did his shoulder, but even prior to that, Reece Stanley was winning the hitouts as well. But the clearances, the Brisbane midfield kind of controlled it around the ground. Centre clearances, we broke even, which was nice. Possession, the uncontested killed us. A Brisbane team who gets more than 100 marks is a Brisbane team that wins. And we'll scroll down to the marking numbers shortly. But a Brisbane team who marks the ball and has managed to maintain possession is a Brisbane team that wins more often than not. And Geelong could not arrest some of that momentum that came from the uncontested possession and the ability to chip it around and utilize smart disposal in this case. So they got a lot of uncontested ball. They got a lot of marks. They managed to then lace it out inside 50 because they played smartly. They also took some great contested marks as well, as obviously the number indicates there. We just didn't cut off that flow like we needed to, especially in the second half, especially in the third quarter, I should say. Time in front, we led for the majority for the greater half of the game. It's just a shame, I guess. Tackling pressure was good. Tackling inside 50, though, we were probably a little bit lacking. Some of our most important players in that area of the ground had down days. And everything else looks pretty good. Like, again, a lot of this suggests that Geelong potentially could have and should have won. We just ended up on the wrong side of the ledger this time. That's life. Let's move on to some player numbers. We'll hone in here on the Cats because there's some highs, there's some lows. Max Holmes was probably best on ground until he again tweaked his hamstring in a prelim. This is such a tired story. We need to put the guy in cotton wool for prelims because he's just going to hurt himself. But he was on fire through that first half and into the third. And he went down. And you could just kind of see at that point that some of that speed and momentum through the midfield was lost. And that really hurt us. It left too much to too little at that point. You can see like all the talk about Bailey Smith, which I'd imagine come Monday, we're going to be hearing that Bailey Smith has nominated the Cats now that the Cats are out of the race. He's going to be a really handy addition to complement Holmes, to complement Dangerfield. There's some extreme speed between those two, but Danger's getting older and managing his time. Max Holmes has been injured and we can't put too much on him. And we just need that other bit of speed around him. Things that Tanner Bruin and Tom Atkins and those guys don't have at the same level. Otherwise, like the defense fought manfully. They did a pretty great job. Obviously, I mentioned Ollie Henry before in the offensive end, did some amazing things. Graham Myers was absolutely sensational, creative. The Messi tag, that fit. Our forward line unit were really efficient when the ball was delivered to them properly. It just wasn't delivered to them properly often enough, as the inside 50 efficiency stat suggested earlier. For the most part, I look at this and I go, this is a nice team effort. This is a team who could have won and should have won the game. But there were some weak links. Tyson Stengel probably had his worst game for the season, certainly the worst final he's ever played. Did not look like getting near it on a variety of different occasions. Sean Manor had some great moments, but also some others where he tried to dribble the ball along the ground when he torched a few opponents in the process and, gave up an easy goal. There were some moments from a few key players that they wish they could have back. But again, it's that prelim final pressure, and they're going to learn from it. We have a young 23 at its core these days. It bodes really well for the future that they've been able to achieve what they have despite that limited opportunity. Mark Blitzards did a great job on Joe Danaher when he went forward, but even when he kind of followed him into the ruck, Shannon Neal, close all night. So close all night. Again, that disposal inside 50, I think, failed him on a few occasions. He got dudded by some decisions made around him by players, by umpires as well. There was a couple early on when possibly could have gotten his tail up that he clunked it, but then Tyson Stengel tried to take mark of the year, gone way too soon, and given the free kick away. But Shannon Neal took the mark and would have had a shot on goal. There was, basically directly in front, would have kicked it. There were moments for him that you just kind of wonder what if. And not because he necessarily did something wrong, but just circumstances didn't play out. He was just kind of unlucky. Tanner Bruin, I think, had a bit of had a fair letdown. Just could not get his hands on the ball, but he will again be better for it. I'm scanning through here to see if there's anything that kind of jumps out. But honestly, there's no real obvious, not failures, letdowns beyond some of those that I've already discussed. The team tried its best. They fought manfully against a team who's bigger, more experienced overall, and nearly pinched it. So it's a shame, but there's lots for us to be holding our head up about. So that's life, I suppose. And so we go down. We bomb out in the prelim final. We go and recruit Bailey Smith. I don't know, maybe chase Jake Waterman. I don't know if that's still an option for us. I don't believe he's signed on yet, so who knows? We get busy in this off season. We continue to do what we do so well in the draft. We go again in season 2025, and there's no reason why we can't go a couple steps further, make the grand final, win the flag. The core of the list is great. We just need to polish up a few areas and we'll be fine. And so that's where we'll wrap things up. This is our final reaction video of season 2024. The Cats, unfortunately, come away. I don't know why that disappeared. Come away with a prelim final loss. But we rebound for season 2025. We go again. We dust ourselves off. And hopefully we bring away some silverware next year. It was a strange old game. I was there with my wife and kids, and even for me personally, it was a really tough moment with when the siren goes and my son explodes in tears into my arms. I don't know if I was like that as a kid. I presume I probably was. You see it on TV all the time with children that are distraught at their team losing. It was a hard moment, but it's made it a bit easier for me to talk to you today. I know that Ben got a bit emotional during post-game live. I know there's a lot of emotional Cats fans out there. I think I've got a little bit of out of my system by just trying to pick up my little mate. But we dust ourselves off. We go again. We rebound as a club. And we'll do some extraordinary things. This is a Cats team that doesn't know how to fail. And even when they do, they refuse to accept that, and they go again, and they go again, and they go again, and they go again. And it makes me so proud to be a Geelong fan. To Brisbane supporters, congratulations on the win. Good luck next week. Sydney fans, good luck next week. I might do a predictions video around the grand final still, because I've been doing it for every round of the final so far. And we'll just see how it all plays out. Cats fans, thank you very, very much for all of your support this season through the men's season. Of course, the women's content is still continuing. Please make sure to get around the girls. We smacked the Suns yesterday. We registered our first win off the back of an overall strong, but then kind of laced with disappointing elements first 4 games of the year. We're now 1, 2, and 1. Hopefully, we continue to surge up the ladder from here and have a crack at a premiership. Be nice to bring away some silverware in the women's comp as well. All right. That is where we'll wrap things up, because otherwise I will feel like the emotions will kick in. I'm also a bit congested, so I don't need to sound like super snotty while we're at it. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Hoops Crew. We can check out all the content that we produce there. Post-game live, I've spoken about already. It was a 2.5-hour marathon last night. Probably felt like a bit of a wake at different points. It was hard for everyone involved. Ben, you did an amazing job hosting it. Check out the Chaps Chat Cats and their reports on both the women's win on the weekend and this preliminary final loss. As I said, we dust ourselves off. We go again. Expect a whole range of videos around Bailey Smith, around any other potential recruits. There's rumors all the time about players that get linked to the Cats, some that'll play out, some that won't. Check it out when I put together videos for those. The draft is upcoming. We're going to do a whole range of player report cards, a bit like last year. Probably not in the short form, but maybe more conversational on the YouTube channel. So stay tuned for all of that stuff as well. There's a whole range of amazing Hoops Crew content still to come. Our season might be done, but the content keeps rolling. And then let's kind of gear up for another assault on a premiership in 2025. Check us out on Patreon if you haven't already. There's a group of 30 plus amazing patrons who've been supporting our platform over the course of this year. And we look forward to you continuing on with us as we deliver more and more content, hopefully more of the stuff that you love, even through this off-season period. And we will continue to deliver in season 2025. For socials, check us out on the Hoops Crew. For myself, Paul James Games. I will make sure to shout out one final time. I've put it up on social media already. I worked with Fox Footy, Sportsbet, and KO on a little finals-related show that's going to go live over the course of this week. It's on KO. It'll be on Fox Footy on during Grand Final week. A bit of fun and games. Go check that out. They put together this amazing little footy card for me. I love it. I absolutely love it. It was a great time. Thank you to the team for inviting me along. Didn't go all the way, as is already evidence on YouTube, but it was a great time. Go check out everything that I got up to there and stay tuned for more. You can also check me out on the Fancast, the AFL Fancast, the podcast group, the YouTube group. I'm joining them for their Grand Final Eve Spectacular this Friday. Go check out that one as well. It's going to be a great time. I'm on from about 9:45 that night. Thankfully, we don't have a Grand Final the next day now, so I don't have to worry about the early the earlier wake up after a late night that night. But go check that out as well. They do some amazing content. They bring a whole bunch of cool people. Brody Holland's going to be there. Cooter's going to be there. There's a whole range of other players that I'm going completely blank on right now that are attending. It's going to be a great time. I'm finding it now. Cooter's going to be there. Simon Black's going to be there. Joe Mercedes going to be there. Brody Holland's going to be there. It's a great group. Check it all out. There's content creators from all over the footy landscape that are coming along. Check that out as well. Free beer, free food all night. It's well worth checking out. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this year. Thank you for checking out this reaction video. It's been a long one. It's been a long season, and it's been a sad conclusion. Cats fans, Cats players, any of you who are watching, thank you for everything that you've done to support us, the fans, the content creators, the community. We love you all. Thank you very much. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.